At 2:47 p.m. on September 14, 1926, Edward Matthias Cuthbert positioned his prototype tractor at the crest of a 40-degree slope outside Moline, Illinois. Watching the rear wheels settle into soft earth. 42 years old, former farm equipment engineer at International Harvester. 3 patents to his name, all for minor improvements to plowshare angles and cultivator spacing. The hillside stretched 200 feet down to a creek bed lined with limestone rocks. His tractor weighed 3,400 pounds. The hydraulic lift system he designed added another 280 pounds, mounted to the rear axle. No other manufacturer had attempted what he was about to attempt. And the problem was simple. Tractors killed farmers. Not occasionally. Not in freak accidents. Consistently. Predictably. The statistics from 1925 showed 147 documented tractor deaths in the Midwest alone. The real number was higher, much higher. Rollovers accounted for 60%. A farmer would be working a hillside. The front end would lift, physics would take over. 2 tons of iron and steel crushing the operator backward. Families found them hours later, sometimes days. Cuthbert had watched it happen to his cousin in 1923. A Fordson Model F on a 12-degree slope. But the front wheels came up during a turn. The machine flipped in less than 2 seconds. Thomas Cuthbert was 38. He left behind a wife and 4 children in a half-plowed field that nobody touched for 3 months. Edward quit International Harvester 6 weeks later. The engineering was straightforward. Every tractor manufactured in America used a fixed drawbar system mounted to the rear axle. The implement hung from chains. When the plow hit an obstruction, a rock, a root, hard clay, the chains pulled. The pulling force created a lever arm. The rear axle became the fulcrum. The front end lifted. Simple physics, deadly physics. Cuthbert's solution redesigned the entire mounting system. And instead of chains, he used 2 articulated arms connected directly to the tractor's hydraulic system. The arms formed a triangle with the lower link at the axle and 2 upper links at shoulder height. When the plow hit resistance, the hydraulic system absorbed the shock. The geometry kept the load balanced. The front wheels stayed planted. He called it the 3-point linkage system. See that subscribe button? It's our exchange. Your way of saying this reached me. Not about the action size, but its meaning. Hit it if this resonated, drop a like if it moved you, and comment your thoughts on this story. Let's complete this circle together. He'd built the prototype in a rented workshop on the outskirts of Moline. And 8 months of work, 16-hour days. His savings ran out in June. He sold his house to buy the hydraulic components. His wife Emma moved in with her sister. She asked him once if it was worth it. He showed her the newspaper clipping about a farmer in Iowa. Crushed under a case tractor, left 3 sons under the age of 10. She didn't ask again. The tractor itself was a modified Titan 10 to 20, purchased surplus from a farm auction. Cuthbert stripped the rear end completely, fabricated new mounting points, and installed his linkage system. The hydraulic pump ran off the power takeoff shaft. 2 cylinders controlled the lift. The whole assembly weighed less than the equivalent chain system it replaced. The geometry was the key. The upper links attached at a precise angle, 23 degrees from horizontal. Too steep and the system couldn't lift heavy implements. Too shallow and it lost the anti-rollover stability. He tested it 17 times on flat ground. The plow responded perfectly. Smooth engagement, clean lift, controlled descent. But flat ground wasn't where farmers died. The slope outside Moline was his final test. 40 degrees. Steeper than any reasonable field, but that was the point. If the system worked here, it would work anywhere. He'd positioned observer stakes every 20 feet down the hillside. Each stake had a white cloth tied at the 4-foot mark. If the tractor tipped, the cloths would show the exact angle of rollover. Cuthbert engaged the clutch at 2:51 p.m. The Titan's engine ran at 850 RPM. The steel wheels bit into the slope. He'd attached a two-bottom plow set to dig 8 inches deep. The hydraulic pressure gauge showed 180 pounds per square inch. Normal operating range. The front wheels tracked straight. 30 feet down the slope. 50 feet. The plow caught something. He felt the impact through the seat. The hydraulic system compensated. The front end dipped slightly, then recovered. But the geometry was working. At 70 feet, the left rear wheel hit a patch of loose shale. The tractor slewed right. Cuthbert corrected with the steering wheel. Too hard. The right wheel caught the edge of a limestone outcrop. The plow blade jammed. Full stop. The engine bogged. RPMs dropped to 600. The hydraulic pressure spiked to 340 pounds per square inch. The relief valve should have opened at 300. It didn't. The upper right linkage arm bent. Not much. 3 degrees. Enough. The geometry changed. The load shifted. The front end lifted 6 inches, 12 inches. The anti-rollover stability was gone. At 2.5 tons of tractor began its backward rotation. Cuthbert had 2 seconds. He could jump. The slope would be rough but survivable. He didn't jump. His hand went to the hydraulic release lever. If he could dump the pressure, the linkage would collapse. The plow would release. The front end would drop. The mathematics were sound. The lever was mounted on the right side panel, 18 inches from the seat. His hand found it. He pulled. The linkage collapsed. The plow released. The front wheels came down. The tractor stopped rotating. For 1 complete second, the machine balanced on the edge of recovery. And then the right rear wheel lost traction on the shale. The tractor slid sideways. The slope took over. 1,500 pounds of iron rolled left. Cuthbert was thrown clear. 20 feet down the slope. He hit shoulder first. The impact broke his collarbone and 3 ribs. The tractor continued rolling. It completed 1 full rotation. The exhaust pipe caught his leg. He was pulled under. The Titan weighed 3,400 pounds, plus the 280-pound hydraulic system. The second rotation crushed his pelvis and lower spine. The third rotation carried the rear wheel across his chest. He was unconscious before the 4th rotation, and dead before the tractor reached the creek bed. A farmer working an adjacent field saw the dust cloud. He reached Cuthbert at 3:15 p.m. 24 minutes too late. The Titan sat wheels up in the creek, water running through the engine manifold. The hydraulic system was intact. The linkage arms were bent but functional. The relief valve was tested later. It had been manufactured with a defective spring. It should have been caught in quality control. It wasn't. Emma Cuthbert received the news at 4:30 p.m. She was hanging laundry at her sister's house. The sheriff arrived in a Model T. He removed his hat before he spoke. She asked one question: did the system work? The sheriff didn't understand. She repeated it. Did his system work? Did the front end stay down? The sheriff confirmed that witnesses reported the tractor had nearly recovered. The system had worked. Emma nodded once and went inside. The patent for the 3-point linkage system was filed in Edward Cuthbert's name on October 2nd, 1926. Emma submitted the application. The patent was granted on March 15th, 1927. Patent number 1,621,473. It covered the triangular geometry, the hydraulic actuation, and the anti-rollover load distribution. The Emma sold the patent 6 months later to a small Irish manufacturer named Harry Ferguson for $800. Ferguson understood what he'd bought. He spent the next decade refining Cuthbert's geometry, improving the hydraulics, and perfecting the implement attachment points. By 1936, the Ferguson system was standard equipment on tractors across Europe. By 1939, Ford Motor Company had licensed the design for American production. The Ferguson-Ford partnership produced 300,000 tractors between 1939 and 1947. Every single one used Cuthbert's 3-point linkage geometry. The patent documents listed Ferguson as the system's inventor, so Cuthbert's name appeared in small print as prior art reference. Emma never challenged it. She used the $800 to buy back the house Edward had sold. She lived there until 1963. Neighbors remembered her as quiet. She kept a workshop in the barn. Local farmers would bring broken equipment. She'd fix it without charge. When they asked why, she'd say it was what Edward would have done. She never remarried. The three-point hitch became the worldwide standard. Category 1, Category 2, Category 3 classifications. Every tractor manufacturer adopted the geometry. John Deere, International Harvester, Massey Ferguson, Case, Alice Chalmers. The attachment points are identical. A plow built in 1955, the mathematics don't change. The 23-degree upper link angle remains constant. Cuthbert's geometry translated directly into ISO standard 730, established in 1979 and still current today. The hillside outside Moline was sold for residential development in 1982. The creek was diverted underground. The slope was graded flat. There's no marker, no historical plaque. Nobody remembers September 14th, 1926. Tractor rollover deaths dropped 73% between 1930 and 1950. Modern statistics credit improved design. Safety features, better engineering. Now, they don't mention a workshop in Moline. They don't mention Edward Matthias Cuthbert. They don't mention that a man died testing the system that saved thousands. The design lives on. Every three-point hitch, every hydraulic lift system, every implement that mounts without chains. Cuthbert's mathematics, his geometry, his understanding that stability isn't about weight distribution, it's about load geometry under stress. The patent expired in 1944. The knowledge became public domain. The system became universal. Emma Cuthbert died on January 8, 1964. She was 81. The obituary in the Moline Dispatch mentioned she was survived by a nephew in Chicago, and it mentioned she'd been married briefly in her youth. It mentioned nothing else. Her estate was valued at $1,200. The workshop tools were sold at auction. A local farmer bought the entire lot for $35. He still uses her torque wrench. This is the story they don't teach in agricultural engineering classes. The prototype that worked. The test that failed. The inventor who understood the mathematics of stability and paid the price for a defective valve spring. The wife who sold a patent for $800 and never spoke publicly about the man who died proving it worked. The system that changed farming and carried another man's name. Every time a modern farmer lowers a plow with a hydraulic lever, they're using Edward Cuthbert's geometry. They don't know it. They don't need to. The design speaks for itself. The mathematics endure. The three-point hitch remains the most significant safety innovation in agricultural equipment history. The man who invented it died testing it on a hillside in Illinois. The design lives on. If this story moved you the way it moved us, hit that like button. Subscribe for more forgotten stories. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Thank you for keeping these memories alive.